Good morning. It's a great day for a morning devotion, isn't it? Good day to get into the Word of God, and I'm glad that I can get into the Word of God with you. Today we're going to be in Matthew chapter 23. Um, this is Jesus's woes. He's given some woes to the Pharisees, and he's going to talk to us a little bit, give us some direction for our life as well. And so here we go. Matthew chapter 23. Oh, let me get that situated there. All right. Matthew chapter 23, beginning at verse 1. Then spake Jesus to the multitude and to his disciples. So Jesus talking to his multitude and his disciples, saying, the scribes and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. Now, whenever he talks about Moses' seat, this was a seat of judgment. They judged the people. All therefore, whatsoever they bid you to observe, that observe and do. So whatever they tell you to do, you do it. But do not, and he's talking about them, but they do not do what their own works, for they say and do not. In other words, they say, but they don't do. For they bind heavy burdens and grievous to be borne, and lay on them men's shoulders, but they themselves will not move them with one of their fingers. So Jesus is telling that the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat, the seat of judgment. Also says they say, but they don't do. And so here's our life principle. Beware of people who are do as I say, not as I do. They don't practice what they preach. Jesus is saying, hey, if there's a leader, if there's someone who's going to tell you to do something, but they're not willing to do it themselves, be very, very careful of that person. But all their works they do, and Jesus is about to give their motives. What they do is to be seen of men. They make broad their paralactros and enlarge the borders of their garments, and they love the uppermost rooms at the feast, and the chief seats in the synagogues, and greetings in the marketplace, and they love to be called the men, Rabbi, Rabbi, but be not called Rabbi, for one is your master, even Christ, and all your brethren. And call no man your father upon earth, for one is your Father which is in heaven. Neither be ye called master, for one is your master, even Christ. But he that is greatest among you shall be your servant, and whoever is exalted himself shall be abased, and he that shall humble himself shall be exalted. Jesus is teaching here about motives. Your why matters. Why do you do what you do? Do you do it to be seen of others? Do you do it because it's the right thing to do? Do you do it because it pleases God? What is your motives? Why do you do what you do? And he's telling them the greatest in the kingdom is not the one with the title, but the one who serves. Bottom line here, just serve. Humble yourself, serve God, serve others, love God, love others. And that's what he's telling them. If you're humble, you'll be exalted. He's given them the key to the kingdom here. And then he gets into some woes. But woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you shut up the kingdom of heaven against men. For you neither go in yourselves, neither suffer or allow others to enter in either. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, you devour widows' houses, and for a pretense, make long prayer. Therefore you shall receive the greater damnation. So he said, you're going to receive a greater damnation because of what you do to others. Woe unto you, scribes, Pharisees, hypocrites, for you can pass sea and land to make one proselyte. And when he is made, you make him twofold more the child of hell than yourselves. Woe to you, you blind guides, which say, whosoever shall swear by the temple, it is nothing. But whosoever shall swear by the gold of the temple, he is a debtor. You fools and blind, for whether is greater the gold or the temple that sanctifieth the gold? And whatsoever shall you swear by the altar, it is nothing. But whosoever sweareth by the gift that's on it, he's guilty. You fools and blind, for whether is greater? What's greater, the gift or the altar that sanctifieth the gift? Whosoever there shall swear by the altar sweareth by it, and by all things thereon. And whosoever shall swear by the temple sweareth by it, and by him that dwelleth in therein. He that shall swear by heaven sweareth by the throne of heaven, and by him that sitteth on the throne. In a series of woes, Jesus calls them hypocrites. Jesus offered a way to the kingdom they refused and blocked others from entering. Jesus shows how they would go to great lengths to win one single convert, but they were making disciples for themselves rather than the kingdom. And then the disciples worse than themselves. Oaths were a big deal in this time, so they would swear by the gold of the temple rather than the temple because the temple was holy. They would separate God's throne from the God of the throne, thus giving themselves a loophole to break an oath. And Jesus is saying, no, it's all one the same. You swear by God of the throne of God, you're swearing by God. You cannot separate it. You cannot separate one from the other, even though you try. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! You pay tithe of mint and incense and cumin, and have omitted the weightier matters of the law, judgment, mercy, and faith. You ought to have done these things. When you say you ought to have done these things, you ought to pay tithes. But you can't leave the others undone. You got to do both. You blind guides which strain at gnats and swallow a camel, woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! You make clean the outside of the cup and the platter, but inside you're full of extortion and excess. Your blind Pharisees, cleanse first that which is within the cup and platter, that the outside of them may be clean also. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees and hypocrites! For you are like unto white sepulchres, which indeed appear beautiful outward, but inside they're full of dead man's bones and unclean. Even so also, you outward appear righteous unto men, but within you are full of hypocrisy and iniquity. Jesus then spoke of tithing. The law required tithing. God said you ought to do it, but you can't do that if you're not going to focus also on judgment, mercy, and faith. You have to focus on all of it. He then mentions their externalism. They look good on the outside, but they were dirty on the inside. They were clean on the outside, but they weren't clean on the inside. Jesus taught that the only way to clean outside is to first clean the inside. Do a heart check. From the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaketh. From the actions of the heart, the life liveth. Woe to you, he gives some more. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, because you build the tombs of the prophets and garnish the sepulchre of the righteous, and say, if we had been in the days of our fathers, we would have not been partakers of them in the blood of the prophets. In other words, we wouldn't have done what they did. Wherefore, you be witness unto your own selves that you are the children of them which killed the prophets. Fill ye up then the measure of your fathers, you serpents, you generation of vipers. How can you escape the damnation of hell? What is he talking about? He goes on to explain, behold, I send unto you prophets and wise men and scribes, and some of them you sought and crucified, and some of them shall you score in your synagogues and persecute them from city to city, that upon you may come all the righteous blood shed upon the earth, from the blood of the righteous Abel to the blood of Zacharias the son of Barshas, whom you slew between the temple and the altar. Verily I say unto you, all these things shall come to pass in this generation. O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, thou wouldest kill the prophets, stonest them that are sent unto you. How often would I have gathered you as children together, even as a hen gathered her chickens under her wings, but you would not. Behold, your house is left unto you desolate. For I say to you, you shall not see me henceforth till you shall say, blessed is he that comes in the name of the Lord. He's pronouncing a future judgment. He's going to send prophets and they're going to be rejected just like in times past. Then he gives a twofold repetition of his beloved name of the city, suggests the compassion that Jesus felt for it. The city repeatedly rejected God's message and his messengers. The one who would have been offered them rest in himself must now withdraw and would not be seen again as the Prince of Peace until the future day when men would say, blessed is he that comes in the name of the Lord. So what a chapter. It's the woe chapter. It's the judgment of God. Look, I told you this and you did that. You say that you want the Messiah to come, but you really don't. I'm here and you reject me. And Jesus ends up saying, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, I wanted to gather you like a hen would do her chickens. I wanted to protect you. I wanted to love you, but you rejected me. You rejected my message. And you're not only going to reject me, you're going to reject everyone that I send you. I'm going to keep sending them, and you're going to keep rejecting them. I wanted to love you, but you didn't let me. And so you're not, and and um, and so that is the chapter 23. And just to kind of go back to the very beginning, I think there's something practical we can apply to our lives. Beware of those who do as I say, not as I do, and go through that and kind of look at what Jesus is saying and see how it can apply, because there's so many things. Make sure your heart's right before, because your actions will be a reflection of your heart. Make sure your inside's right, because your outside's going to be a reflection of your inside. So that's chapter 23. Hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you later. Bye bye.